Good afternoon, everybody.
My name's Andy Reese, and welcome to yet another of our Fulbright presentations, the webinars that we do every year for a period of about 6 months to inform you of various options in terms of the current competition for the Fulbright Scholar Program. So keep in mind, we're talking about 2018-19 academic year with a deadline of 1 August 2017. So I don't know if any of you were here yesterday. I did a webinar on the Distinguished Chairs program. Today, I'm going to do a webinar of a type that I invented several years ago that everybody kids me about called Hidden Gems. As you can see, the audio portion, hopefully you can hear it too, has begun. We use the GoToWebinar service, and there are 2 ways that you can listen to the presentation. You can listen to it on your computer speakers, which requires you to turn them on, or you can go and listen to it on your telephone handset or speaker. If you do so, you need to select the Use Telephone option on the module that you find on your screen, and it will give you some login information. But if I can do it, I suspect almost anybody can. So let's get rolling with today's presentation. As I mentioned, my name is Andy Reese, and I'm here at the Institute of International Education in their offices in Washington, D.C., because I have traditionally worked with the Fulbright Scholar Program for a very long time. This is my email address, areess, A-R-I-E-S-S, @iie.org. This happened yesterday on our connection slide. Spell check will often very helpfully correct my name and will turn my email address into arises. That's not my name. And so if you are going to send me a message, and I welcome them all, please check to make sure that your system is not smarter than everybody else and has decided to change my name to arises from A. Reese. But anyway, if that's as complicated as things get, we're doing pretty well. Whoops, I just went backwards. So very quickly, this is the Fulbright legacy. It was established in 1946 as a purpose being to expand and to strengthen the relations between the people of the United States and the people of the world. World War II had just ended. World War III might be coming next. And Senator J. William Fulbright, the senator from Arkansas, who had himself been overseas and gone to school in Oxford on a Rhodes, felt that one of the great ways for us to overcome our differences and understand one another better was to learn, to study, and to live together. And so he created the Fulbright programs. And since that time, for 71 years now, the program has been in operation. It's sponsored by the United States Department of State through their Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. And the people at ECA are our day-to-day allies, mentors, tutors, etc. They are very much involved in the program and have a great deal to do with our communications with Fulbright in-country commissions in 49 countries of the world and everywhere else with the United States embassies where the program is administered. I'm here at the Institute of International Education, and their offices in Washington, D.C. Their headquarters is in New York City, across the street from the United Nations. We're here in Washington, D.C., where the Fulbright Scholar Program and a group of other programs administered by IIE are also headquartered. So to be eligible for the program, very quickly, you need to have U.S. citizenship. You need to have a degree as required by the award, and this is one reason why I always tell people, please read the award descriptions carefully, because the awards are all created in the hosting countries, and therefore they vary dramatically. And so you want to make sure that when you go to apply for an award, you're applying for the award that's actually being advertised, and advertised by the hosting country, the hosting institution where you will be going. Otherwise, you'll miss the point of the award. You'll miss potentially getting your application kiltered in the right direction, and therefore you may miss a wonderful opportunity. So anyway, have a look to see if it's a PhD or another terminal degree that may be required. There are all sorts of awards that do not require PhDs and terminal degrees, etc., that are very anxious to involve professionals, so on and so forth, people who are postdocs or new to the academic profession. That's typically within 5 years. So on and so forth. So just read them very carefully. We also work all the time, as I mentioned, with professionals and artists, etc., people who are outside of academia, but who have a recognized level of professional accomplishment. The general policies of the Fulbright program are created by the J. William Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board, and we've just made a link between them and their policy guides. The only change in policy of late has been that you now must wait 2 years from the conclusion of one Fulbright grant until you apply for another Fulbright grant. You can have as many as you can get in a lifetime, but you do have a 2-year waiting period between return and a reapplication. So just keep that in mind. The 2 in a lifetime rule is gone, et cetera, et cetera. These policies do change every so often, and that's why we want to make sure that you can find them and know what's going on. So what are hidden gems? We're finally getting down to it. By the way, I just had a wonderful time making this slide. I just love pretty things. So anyway, this is a topic that came up several years ago, and I decided at the time that I would start doing webinars called Hidden Gems. And basically, it's to talk about a group of typically unrelated awards, I mean in terms of each other, to which we would like to draw attention. So how are these awards that we're going to talk about today, are they chosen? Well, first of all, I ask for staff input. And principally, all of the awards I'm going to talk about this afternoon are because staff have asked me to bring them up. Sometimes there is a sense that you get when you've been working with a program for a while that a particular country or an award within that country just doesn't get attention that you as a program officer feel that it deserves. And so that's another way to get to the hidden gems. Also, we generate lots of statistics in terms of where people are looking, what they're going, what's going on in terms of where in the award catalog attention is being directed. And so that's another way by looking at statistics. Sometimes a Fulbright Commission overseas, as I mentioned earlier, there are 49 of them, or an American embassy wants to draw special attention to an award. That happens fairly often. One of the ways that it happens is when a new country is recognized, the American embassy opens, and they almost immediately will request Fulbright become involved, and so they'll say, well, we need to pay attention to the whole country, or we've got some awards here that are particular. And the other is, as I mentioned, a new program, a new country, or specifically a new award. So hidden gems come from a lot of places, but the purpose essentially is to talk to you, to let you know that there are things that people are missing. Sometimes they are, I would tend to agree, perhaps somewhat more obscure than others. Sometimes they're great big and right in your face, and yet it doesn't seem that people are paying much attention to them. It's possible to say at this point whether the current government will cut funding for Fulbright. We have no idea. We're hoping not. You may have heard, I'm sorry, I was muttering that. A question came up about the cutting of funding for Fulbright. We really don't know. Nobody does. There's a very strong bipartisan support on the Hill for Fulbright. Initially, we were told there was not going to be any kind of a cut. Now everybody is, in doubt about everything. So I honestly don't know how to answer that question because I would have to be a pundit. And I would say go to your television station any night and you can hear a lot of people talking about a lot of stuff. And whether any of it's correct or not is kind of up to you. But we don't know anything about the funding yet. So very quickly, let me talk to you about how to navigate the catalog of awards. For some of you who are veterans of Fulbright, you expect the award catalog to look a certain way, and it doesn't anymore. We came up with a whole new award catalog, and I must admit, so far, I've been very pleased that literally every person I know who's talked to me about it has said they really like the new presentation. And what we realized was in the old catalog, we tended to put you into the middle of an awful lot of information. All that information is still here. None of that's disappeared. It's just done a little bit more discreetly, and it takes you a little bit longer to get into it. So the first thing you are confronted by is not a wall of choices. So the awards catalog is found at awards.cis.org. This is the landing page that you will come to, and you see that you've got at least 4 things to do initially. You can select a world region. There are 6 world regions according to the State Department. And that way you can find everything in Europe, Eurasia, or the Far East and the Pacific. Or you can go to a very long drop down of all of the countries and area awards that exist. That is, I say, very long drop down. Or you can go to a drop down of disciplines. Now the disciplines are gross disciplines because we can't obviously cover every possible discipline there is in academe because there are, I don't know that anyone would agree how many there are. And so we have kind of gross discipline ways that you can look things up. This is something that we all talked about, and certainly my PhD is in history, and I don't think of myself necessarily as somebody who has to go to Russia, even though it's Russian history. I think of myself first as an historian, as a sociologists think of themselves, and chemists think of themselves, and physicists think of themselves, and they probably don't think, oh, I'm a physicist of Cameroon, but rather I'm a physicist first. So if you're interested in looking at the award catalog by discipline, you can do that. If you just want to look at the whole thing, you can hit the Find Awards button. That will give you a massive list of awards, but it will also give you on the left-hand side a series of advanced search options that you have that will stay with you throughout the catalog. So anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about how to use the catalog. We have webinars about that too. But what I want to do is at least give you a general sense of, here's the catalog. This is where all the information you're going to need can be found. So let's start looking at at our options, our awards. For East Asia and the Pacific, the first award that we're going to talk about is in Australia. Australia is a high volume, typically, country. One of the great things is because it's an English-speaking country, a lot of people know about Australia, etc., and it has a terrific educational establishment. A couple of years ago, the Australian Commission added 6 new awards. And what we want to do is talk about one of them today, and that's the one at Curtin University. Now, many people have not probably heard of Curtin University. It is the largest university in Western Australia, 58,000 students, and I understand it's named for a former Prime Minister of Australia. There are 5 main faculties with 95 specialist centers. This is an extremely diverse and really interesting institution. It's the kind of institution that it would pay for you just to go and look at their website because there's a huge amount of information there. It's a member of the Australian Technology Network. It's ranked number 2 in engineering for mineral and mining engineering in the world. So this is not some small, out-of-the-way institution, even though it may not be as well known by many Americans as it might be. And their Center for Smart Grid and Sustainable Power Systems is something you should definitely have a look at. So they have a very highly developed system of specialist centers, of all kinds of relationships with businesses, etc. It's extremely interesting. The program that we're looking at is award number 8062, which is for a senior scholar in resources and engineering. This is a research opportunity. And so what you can conduct is research in a whole series of fields that tend to fall into not the humanities and social sciences or the fine arts. There's agriculture, biological sciences, business administration. As I say, the university has very interesting ties, not only with businesses in Australia, but also relationships all around the Pacific, etc. Chemistry, engineering, environmental sciences, geology, physics, and astronomy. And Australia being an amazing land, there are lots of ways you can apply any of these fields locally. They're also going to be asking for you to consult on curriculum to help with graduate seminars and to give guest lectures in various places. So you'll have a wonderful opportunity to become involved in the general climate, in the general community. And one of the things that's not a peculiarity, it would make sense in any application, but that the Curtin University option mentioned specifically is that you should indicate interaction with host faculty and students. I just saw a question pop up asking if there is a visual. Let me check my, it should be, yeah, according to me and to our little module here, the audience view is on, and I'm seeing my slides, which is what you should be seeing. So I'm not clear why you're having a problem with the visuals, because they're going out from us. So I don't know. You may want to start all over again, and so just think about that, because it seems to be working fine here. So enough about Curtin. I've got several awards that I want to talk about. Oh, there is a visual. I see your slide. Okay, great. Yeah, the window may have gotten closed by accident. The next one is in the Philippines. And for those of you who aren't aware of it, because I always do a little bit of background information on why you should be intrigued by these countries, the Philippines, of course, is a gigantic archipelago. 7,641 different islands that cover 116,000 square miles, the 5th largest coastline in the entire world. Their waters, their maritime waters, encompass 850,000 square miles, 500 species of coral, 2,400 species of fish, and they have, for instance, the very famous Coral Triangle and the Tubataha Reef, which is a World Heritage Site. And agriculture is important because it employs 30% of the national labor force. Now, why is all this important? Because the award I want to emphasize is the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Award, number 8103. This is a really intriguing opportunity because it is so specific, but it can work for a number of different fields, obviously, depending upon where you're coming from. And one of the things is that you will be working directly to both to be teaching about and to help to advance research on topics of modernization efforts that are being directed by the Philippine Department of Agriculture and its various affiliate institutions. And this is one of the times when we have an opportunity for people to work directly with a governmental agency. That actually happens in several different places, but this one is of interest specifically because it does work with the modernization of two industries that are of extreme importance. Being in an archipelago, obviously fishing is extremely important, and the land usage on the larger islands like Luzon, etc., for farming is extremely important. So please keep this in mind. If you have any interest in aqua farming, if you are involved in agriculture, if you're in agricultural economics, etc., all kinds of environmental possibilities, keep this award in mind. Coming up next, also, we have Korea. This is a really interesting award in Korea because obviously we have, as anybody who reads, listens to a radio or watches television, etc., knows, that here's a peninsula that was divided into two states in what was basically a gigantic superpower confrontation that ran from 1950 to 1953. And it ended, as many of you may be aware, without a treaty. So the war itself was never technically over. It's just settled down into a state of people glaring back and forth at each other. Now, this award, of course, is in the Republic of Korea. If you want to go to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea, I suggest always getting a rowboat. But South Korea is one of the 4 Asian economic dragons. It's first in the world in spending for research and development per gross domestic product dollar. Peace Studies is the award we're looking at, number 8092. Well, it seems like an obvious choice in a place like Korea where peace would be a great deal of interest. So you'd be working on courses on armed conflict, conflict resolution, human rights, building modern, better societies. The host institution is Kyunghee University, which has a series of campuses, but you would be in Namyangju. This particular institution won the UNESCO Prize for Peace Education, so it's a very important site where where you can work. The picture that I put on the screen is from the meditation hall on their campus. Classes tend to be small, 8 to 15 people. You get a chance to advise students and do consultation, etc., on curriculum development. And this could be, if you're in peace studies of any kind, as an historian, as a political scientist, etc., as a theoretician, a practitioner, conflict resolution, this is a great award to go to a particularly distinguished institution that has made a reputation for itself in the field of peace education. So I would suggest that you have a look at Korea. There are other awards, of course, in all of these countries, and I wouldn't want to make it sound as though there aren't. Another thing I want to really push now that we've moved to Europe is all of the European Union awards, because we have a number. And I've always been interested that the EU, for some reason, Americans don't pay much attention to. So I wanted to point out that there are 28 member states in the European Union, more than 510 million people. 22% of the global nominal gross domestic product is coming out of these 28 states. So the EU, whether people understand it or necessarily approve of it, is big. We know it began in 1952, actually, with the coal and steel community for Europe. That was an attempt to organize the central countries in Europe, Germany, France, etc., into a special trading group. That was, there were only 6 countries at the time. That was transformed in 1992 at Maastricht when we developed the common market, and then in 2007 in the Lisbon Treaty when it really went to the EU. This was the first real effort in the world to produce a supranational entity. An effort to say, we've had enough of borders, let's do something in common, because we're reproducing our efforts and we're wasting a lot of time and money and not getting the rewards that we should be. Of course, the EU has become very famous now because of Brexit. And so if anybody is in a field of interest, this is a wonderful time to jump on the EU bandwagon, because people are paying attention to it now, maybe not for the reasons that the creators of the EU would have approved, but nonetheless, it's become very interesting. So I want to go very quickly over the 5 awards that exist in the EU. One of them is a great postdoc opportunity, and that means it would be limited to people within 5 years of the completion of their PhDs. And that's at a very lovely place called Florence at the European University Institute. So keep in mind, if you are a postdoc or know someone in the field, be sure to have a look at this, because it's a wonderful opportunity to spend 9 months in a remarkable city. And it's basically kind of all over the place in terms of options. There's area studies in economics and history and law and political science and sociology are the major fields of interest. There's a Fulbright Schumann Chair in exactly the same place at Florence in social sciences. So if you are a scholar later in your career, there's still the opportunity to teach and conduct research on social sciences in the EU at Florence. The Fulbright Schumann European Union Affairs Award gives 2 grants. You need to be conducting research about the EU in at least 2 states of the EU. So keep in mind, this is a multi-state opportunity within the European Union. And I don't know quite how they would handle the UK, to be quite honest at this point, but you may want to ask. There's then also the Fulbright Schumann Innovation Award, and there are 2 grants associated with this award. It's an extremely interesting and very forward-looking opportunity that was developed a couple of years ago, and I think it personally is one of the more interesting awards anywhere in the Fulbright family at this particular moment. The idea is to try to come to a better understanding of the approaches to innovative technologies and business models, and how their integration with new and existing policies and regulations are going to work. So there's a lot of interest in privacy protection. and all kinds of things. And they've been partnering with, in the field of engineering in particular, with John Deere, which is one of the largest agricultural machinery producers in the world. And so John Deere has lined up with their European Technology Innovation Center to help do this work. And so they're looking at holistic smart farming and all kinds of things. Anyway, it's really a very inventive award, and I would, if you've got some interest in this, I would most definitely have a close look at it because it is so, I hate to say it, it's so innovative, but that's what you have an award called innovation for. And then the final one is a brand new award, which I think is very interesting, and that's the Fulbright Schumann 70th Anniversary Migration Research Award. It's not the 70th anniversary of migration research, but it was the 70th anniversary last year of the Fulbright program. And so they have funded this particular program to look at issues of the whole confrontation of migration problems, but it's restricted to Belgium, France, Greece, Italy, and the UK. And as I say, as far as I know, that UK funding will stay there no matter how things go with Brexit. But if that's an issue, I would certainly look into it. But the idea is that, you know, that these are countries, and this is a part of the world that has been very heavily influenced by significant influx of migrants in a relatively short amount of time. And so there are all kinds of issues to, you know, how you prepare yourself, how you look at these kinds of things. And so they're very interested in sort of cultural anthropological approaches to the issues and so on and so forth. You need to go, by the way, to at least 3 of the 5 participating countries, so keep that in mind. But this, anyway, I won't go into a great deal of detail to say we don't have the time, but it applies to a lot of different fields: anthropology, communication, economics, education, journalism, law, political science, and health, and religious studies, and social work, and so on and so forth. So there are a whole bunch of fields that you could use to apply for this award. So please pay attention to all 5 of the EU awards. The last award for Europe is in Austria. Sometimes I think people are going to accuse me of being paid by the Austrian Commission, but the Austrian program is one of the most inventive in the world as far as I'm concerned, and this is an award of particular interest at the Museum of Natural History in Vienna. This museum opened back in 1889. And the idea was that they needed a place to store all the Habsburg collections of natural stuff, you know, because right across from this is the Kunsthistorisches Museum, which has all the art in it. And so the Habsburgs built these 2 gigantic museums in the middle of Vienna and said, let's go. And this is an opportunity to go to do work in the Natural History Museum. This museum has over 30 million objects and covers over 94,000 square feet. It's huge. And so the award is the Fulbright Natural History Museum Vienna Visiting Researcher Award 8119. The fields of greatest interest are going to be anthropology, botany, geology, mineralogy, meteorites, paleontology, and zoology. And it's all about research. And the wonderful thing is they have a staff of some 60 people who include staff and curators, and while you're conducting research from these fields on your own, you've got a lot of opportunities for collaboration with the staff that is on site. And this is a wonderful opportunity to build a lot of new research directions, etc., and to work in a truly amazing facility. So if you fit into anthropology, botany, geology, mineralogy, meteorites, paleontology, or zoology, I would suggest you have a look at this award, because were I able to A, apply, and B, had any really deep knowledge of any of these fields, this is an award I would be looking at very seriously. Oh, I forgot, it's not the last award. This is a really cool award. This is the Greece-Spain Award. It's brand new this year. The idea is that Greece and Spain have a long history of connections that people don't necessarily always recognize, but that the Spanish and the French the Spanish and the Greek commissions wanted to talk about and to encourage more knowledge about. And so The relationship, as far as we can tell, really begins when the current Spanish city of Ampurias, which was founded as Emporion, which means a trade place, was created in 575 BC by the Ionian city of Phocaea. And Phocaea had only a matter of like 10 or so years before founded a place that's now called Marseille. And the Greeks were expanding out into the western part of the Mediterranean, and they landed in Spain and liked what they saw. The relationship has continued over the years. In 1492, as many of you know, the Catholic monarchs of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella, signed the Alhambra decree, which expelled the Jews from Spain. And so a large group of Sephardic Jews wound up moving to Thessaloniki, which was then in the Ottoman Empire, but they have remained there. And so there has always been a connection between the Jewish communities in Spain and in Greece because of this law. And of course, perhaps the most famous example of the relationship was Dominikos Theotokopoulos, better known as El Greco. He was born in Crete, and he moved around. He went to a number of places, including Venice, but he wound up in Toledo and became very famous, of course, as one of the great painters who sort of revolutionized painting in the late Renaissance. And so there have been these connections all along. And so what we've come up with is the Greece-Spain Joint Teaching Research Award, 8472. This is teaching typically at the graduate level, but that also gives the opportunity and encourages research work. Because you will be allowed to and encouraged to have all kinds of collaboration with Spanish and Greek research institutions. And so the topics that you can be concerned on would be current or historical issues or fields of study. The disciplines that are listed initially in the awards tend to be in the humanities and the arts. They are archaeology, art, area studies of various kinds, history, economics, language and literature, music, political science, theater. But the idea is to draw links between Greece and Spain and to encourage and to remember that historic relationship that began in 575 BC. So moving to the Western Hemisphere, let's talk about Suriname. I know the program officer for Suriname was very interested that we get the word out about Suriname. It is the smallest country in South America, or in South American. Oh dear, my typing's not what it used to be. And it is also one of the most ethnically diverse nations anywhere in the world. It's layer upon layer upon layer of groups from all over the world and indigenous peoples as well. And is a very interesting country because of its high biodiversity as well as its really interesting mixture of peoples. So the award we're looking at is the single award for Suriname, which is 8457. It's an all disciplines award, so it means it's open to everybody. And it also has all activities, teaching, research, and the combination of teaching and research. This particular award does put forward a preferred mix of time, which would be 50-50. So that's what they would like to see, 50% teaching, 50% research. They're also very interested in encouraging a collaborative work with local scholars, students, etc. It's open to people at all levels, including early career, so this could be a great place to sharpen your teeth academically if you are just out of a graduate school. It has 4 to 9 months, so you can choose 1 or essentially 2 semesters, and it has the flex option. The flex option is important because what that allows you to do is space your award out over 2 years. So that's what flex options mean. They show up in particular awards, and they allow you this option actually to space the award out over 2 years. Keep in mind, when you apply, if you are going to use the flex option, you must make that obvious from day one. So it has to be part of your application. You can't apply to take care of all of your work in a single academic year, get the award, and then come back later and say, oh, I changed my mind, I want to make it a flex award. That can't happen, because part of the reason why you won the award was that you made a case for taking it out over 2 years and how you plan to use those 2 years. So just keep in mind, the flex option is a phenomenal one. It's really useful for a lot of people. But make sure that you understand that if you do use it, you're going to have to continue, to use it throughout the award, and you've got to make that clear. So how about Paraguay? This is a very interesting country. It's totally landlocked. It and Bolivia are the two landlocked nations of South America. It's interesting because it's a fairly small country, and a lot of people don't know about it. But interestingly enough, it has showed one of the highest economic growth rates in all of South America, well over 7% per annum. It also has a place called Ciudad del Este, and Ciudad del Este is the third most important free trade zone in the world after Miami and Hong Kong. Surprise, surprise. It's an interesting country because it is very differentiated. The Paraguay River divides it into two pieces, and you're going to find that most of the population is in the east, which tends to be more mountainous and forested. The west is the famous Gran Chaco, which is a gigantic plain, 60% of the country's area. And so it has a very rich and very diverse agricultural sense. It has a lot of very different kinds of flora and fauna depending upon which side you're standing in terms of the river. A very interesting place. And of course, for those of you who are historians, there was a huge war called the War of the Gran Chaco in the 19th century, and it all started and took place chiefly in this area between Bolivia and Paraguay. The award we're looking at is award number 8455, and that's the sole award for Paraguay. There are two grants. They're all disciplines, teaching and teaching research. They note specifically that a seminar approach is often very successful as opposed to a straight lecturing approach. So keep that in mind. It's a part of the award descriptions. And it is open to academics and professionals. And as we mentioned just a few moments ago, it has the flex option as well, which means that you could take it over 2 years. And so keep that in mind as another option. One of the, and this may strike people as odd, but this is something that I think people are going to accuse me of being paid by the Canadian Commission as well. But Canada, I find interestingly enough, doesn't get the attention it deserves. I think Americans, I've always said, think east, west, and south, and they forget Canada. Canada has a very, very impressive Fulbright program. It's very inventive. It's very well thought out. It's very, very closely involved in things that are going on in Canada with Canadian institutions, etc. So it's and it has an exceptional Fulbright Commission in Ottawa. So I would just want to mention a few things. Canada is the 4th largest country in the world by land area. It's got the 11th largest economy in the world. It's a powerhouse. It's going just fine, thank you very much. And they have some really intriguing awards. And the one I want to point out is award number 8425. And that allows you to be placed in Alberta. It's entirely in the province of Alberta, and either universities in Edmonton, in Calgary, or in Lethbridge. And this is a picture of the Calgary campus of the University of Calgary. This is an intriguing award because it's made in combination with the Palix Foundation. And the Palix Foundation helped create the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative in 2004, and then it went to full force in 2007. It's an effort to combine science, policy, and practice to improve public health. And so it is very much devoted to the country and to what's going on there, and to the people in the country, and to improving the lives of families, etc. And so the award is called the Fulbright, I couldn't fit it on the slide actually, this is the Fulbright Canada Palix Foundation Distinguished Research Chairs in Brain Science and Child and Family Health and Wellness. You can see why this is a really long title. But the idea, the topics of interest here are organizational management, health and social system improvement, addiction care and recovery, and adverse childhood experience. This is a research-intensive program because you are going to be placed in research-intensive institutions, and it's really an amazing piece of work. They're particularly interested in scholars who are going to be willing to work across disciplines and sectors, and whose work will be focused on making an impact on health and wellness outcomes. So keep in mind that whatever models you as a scholar happen to be using, make sure that they are based on current, up-to-date science and the effects of things like toxic stress on children, the family, and life course health and wellness outcomes, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a really superb award. You should be ready to articulate how your work as a Fulbrighter is going to align with the general focus of the scholarship opportunity itself, and specifically with those areas of inquiry. So you need to do some research if you're going to apply for this, but if you are in any of the fields of interest, I recommend it strongly for the nature of the award and Canada, because it's such an exceptionally good program. Finally, we have Uruguay. It's the second smallest country in South America, so we're following up our small country thing, but it is an intriguing place because it's ranked first in democracy, peace, lack of corruption, and press freedom in all of South America. It's also interesting if you're intrigued by green issues. 95% of its electricity is from renewable energy. They no longer import any kind of electricity, etc. They're completely self-sustaining. Agriculture here, because we're going to be talking about an agricultural award, is 9.3% of the gross domestic product. And one of the fascinating things is how important cattle and sheep-related work is to the country, because 82% of the land is used for cattle and sheep. There are 12 million head of cattle. I think the ratio to the population is for every one person, there's 3+ head of cattle running around, and it amounts to $1 billion in meat exports. So the award is in agriculture. It's number 8461, and that includes environmental science because they're also interested, obviously, in the impact of what's going on. It's research teaching research opportunity. It's open to academics and professionals, and it's being hosted by the National Institute of Agricultural Research, which is really cool because it is the main headquarters is located in Montevideo, and then it has 5 research institutes around the country. So you can do all kinds of collaborative work in what is the second smallest country in South America. So that means you can get around in a way. If you were proposing something like this in Russia, that would be a heck of a lot harder. And I would have been secretly informed by the program staff that this is an award that Uruguay is very interested in, and that they are more likely than almost any place on the face of the earth to fund actually more grants than are advertised. And so if they get good applications, they're excited to have you come, and they are very likely to fund more than just what the program claims they're going to fund. So this is always good news. So we have a whole bunch of application resources that you can get to, the award catalog, the actual application, etc., information on how to do a whole bunch of stuff, and our webinar archive. But now that we've gone through this, let me start answering questions, because they are definitely popping up. Let me see if I can expand this piece so I can read them more readily. Okay, don't expand, just see if I care. There we go. Okay. Let's go. Okay, I've answered, well, one is a hello from Heather, and hello, Heather. One is about funding, so we've taken care of that one. Okay, and then we had the visual issues. I hope, apparently Sandra left. I guess maybe she couldn't get it to work. Will the Fulbright staff review proposals before submitting to ensure feasibility, and what countries in Africa have received little attention? Well, Olivia, that's an interesting question. You need to ask the program staff if they can have a look at your proposal before you submit it. We cannot prejudice the competition, but sometimes we can look at things, and that's going to depend upon the staff, what their assignments look like. We've just had a complete reorganization. People are essentially doing two sets of jobs at the same time. So it can be a little bit difficult, but you're not going to be hurt if you ask. And I did ask about countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and I didn't get any answers from the staff. So unfortunately, I would say overall, South Africa, of course, does typically very well. But most of sub-Saharan Africa does not get the attention that any of us would like to see. We would love to have, 15 applications for every award. What I would recommend is if you have an award that you're interested in, have a look at who the program staff is and get in contact with them to say, gee, how does it seem to be going for Ethiopia or Kenya or whatever. And you should also look at the regional research opportunities through the Sub-Saharan African Regional Research Program, which will allow you to do pure research in as many, I believe, as 3 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. Most country programs there allow teaching research combinations, but not pure research, so that's why you look at the Sub-Saharan Regional Research Award. South Africa does have its own research programs. Let's see, somehow the screen, what is going on? The screen keeps jumping all over the place. Maybe we're having an earthquake, I hope not. Okay, Bridget, I'm not going to slap your wrist for hoping he has a gem for nursing. Actually, the program that I have used before is in Jordan for nursing. I would have a look at that. It didn't come up when I asked for input this time, but I know that's a fantastic program in Jordan. And also keep in mind there are a lot of all-discipline fields. If you do nursing and you don't find nursing listed or any other kinds of fields, that's where you should be looking. How many months support does each of these awards provide? You're going to have to look at each of the awards because they do vary by country. And so sometimes they're a single semester, sometimes they're a single semester or a full academic year. Sometimes they really want a full academic year. Sometimes they'll give you something like 7 months for a research award. So it's going to depend. How about engineering? Well, how about engineering? As you've seen, there were several awards that are covered by, that do cover engineering. And so I would certainly look, remember for awards that have a technological STEM kind of a basis, be sure to look at those because they will most typically cover engineering. But also keep it, and you can search by discipline. Also keep in mind that you have the opportunity with the all and multiple discipline awards to say, okay, that's engineering is one of them. How about it? That's what I would like to apply for. And so it may be up to you just to say, I want to make a case for this particular award, but I want to turn it into an engineering award. And that's what those awards are designed to do. So just keep that in mind. There's a question about the division of time for the award at in Florence for the chair. I'm looking very quickly, and I don't see a specific, you should be planning to teach a minimum of 2 courses for the Institute and organize 1 presentation about Fulbright. And so other than that, I don't see any particular numbers that are being given. So what you're going to need to do is create a plan and tell how that's going to work. And I think it is always useful to say, well, I'm going to make this a 70-30 or a 40-60 or whatever division of my time. But the award description itself, I can't find a particular formula for percentages. So as long as you can get in the 2 courses, etc., then it looks like it's pretty much up to you. You might want to teach 4 courses. If that's the case, then obviously you're going to put the weight on the teaching end as opposed to the research end of it. Could Award 8457 in Suriname be eligible for the Global Scholar option? I have an interest in a multi-country one. Thank you for asking that question, Terry, because yes, Suriname does participate in the Global Award. Most countries in the world do, not all of them, however, but you will find when you go into the award catalog for Suriname, for instance, you'll find 2 awards listed. One is 8457 that is specific to Suriname, and the other is the Global Award. So anytime you see that, that means that particular country is going to be is going to be participating in the global award. And as far as I know, I think Paraguay does as well. I wouldn't swear to it because I must admit I didn't look at it that way, but you can find it very readily by just going to the country drop-down, looking at, it's alphabetical. As opposed to being divided as it used to be by world area and then alphabetically by country. And so you can go there and have a look to see what they're offering in terms of whether or not they're participating in the global program. Because as I say, I just didn't look at it that way, so I'm a bad person. Let's see. We have a question about language in Paraguay. I'm trying to see what it says about language. And I must admit, I don't have anything right here that tells me, but it will have a language description. If that's a requirement, it will say so. And as I say, in the material that I happen to have with me right now, I can't tell. So if you'll just go have a look at Paraguay and the award catalog. Oh, you want to teach English? I'm sorry, I'm completely misunderstood. Let's see. They don't specifically mention that for Paraguay because they seem to be mostly agriculture, business, computer science, etc., those kinds of fields. So my suspicion is that, well, they are, let me rephrase that. They are open to all disciplines. They clearly have a preference for applied disciplines and things like, agriculture and so on and so forth. But of course, teaching English is an applied field. I would check with the program officer. I would also look in our scholar directories to see who's been going to Paraguay and what they've been doing, what their work has been in. But I think the best thing to do is go to check with the award, with the program staff for Paraguay to see what they have to say. Restating a question: how many months support does Florence offer? Okay, let me have a look at that. I think it gives. It's an academic year. That's what I thought. So that's approximately 9 months, 9 to 10 months. It's going to depend on how you do, how you approach that in terms of the exact length, but it's an academic year. For the Migrant Research Award, I just have the question for the Migrant Research Award. So I'm assuming we're talking about the length of the award itself. Let me have a quick look. Okay, it's 3 to 8 months. So it is a research award in that it gives you a different set of month times that do not necessarily fit into academic semesters, but it's 3 to 8 months for the Migrant Award in the EU. Any hidden gems in Africa? As far as I'm concerned, all of Africa is a hidden gem frequently, but the problem was when I asked the staff to give me some suggestions, I didn't get any for sub-Saharan Africa. So I can't point any out to you specifically. I've certainly done them in the past, but I'm not sure that those would necessarily be the ones that people would point out right now. And so I would just have a look and talk, just have a look and talk to the program staff that's appropriate. I'm sorry I don't have any information, but nobody answered me. I'm not sure if this was answered. Will you be sending a copy of the slides? I can, or they will be archived in the webinar archive, as we do with all of our webinars. I'm interested in teaching English as a second language. I have an MA in TESOL. What grants today that you've covered could I apply for? I don't know that any of them specifically covered TESOL. I don't remember seeing TESOL involved in any of them, but you can search for TESOL in our award catalog and you'll find quite a bit. I see Kenya ? Yes, we have programs in Kenya, but as I say, in terms of hidden gems, it was not picked out, and so I would go certainly look. Remember, we've got 450 awards, so we've got a lot of awards to look at, and I had to really chop things down based on what people were giving me, but as I say, sub-Saharan Africa sent me nothing. One of my parents is my dependent. Can parents be included in programs that accept dependents? I have seen it certainly done before. One of my very first grantees had a dependent mother who joined her. That typically goes within the definition of a dependent. So it does not have to be a child, it does not have to be a spouse, but it can be a dependent parent. So yes, that should work. I was told we cannot find out the stats on applications to different countries. If I am struggling to choose a program, any recommendations on how to decide? Ugh. Well, as a matter of fact, we don't give out those statistics because the real truth of the matter is what you find is that the thing that makes things competitive is a particular award more than a country. Countries in Western and Central Europe tend to be popular. Countries with English-speaking as a native language, especially the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, tend to be very popular. Let me use popular as opposed to competitive. But as I always point out, India, major language of India for education certainly is English. There's Canada. I was mentioning Canada before that people tend not to pay much attention to. There's, Ghana and Kenya and Tanzania, South Africa, etc. There are a lot of countries where English is also available that people don't necessarily always think of, Nigeria as options. And so a lot of it has to do with kind of, I think some of the popularity competitive issues are sometimes based on people not necessarily thinking things through as clearly as they might. What you need to do is really boil it down to where do you want to be, what can you make a good case for, because that's ultimately what we judge on, what our reviewers look at, and that is, did you make a good case? Did you follow the award instructions? Does this have a payoff? We've got lots and lots of webinars that talk about how to look at things, and so I would advise going to our webinar archive and having a look at, because there are already a ton of webinars that have been archived, and as you can see, this one's already going over, well, it's about to go over in terms of length, but there are a lot of things that, to look at. Are there hidden gems for the visual arts? Well, as I say, I had to pick among a lot of different awards, and I didn't even get some responses from parts of the world. So you're going to find visual arts are an option in a number of places. Remember, there was Greece and Spain. That's a fantastic award. It's brand new this year. Nobody's ever applied for it before. So the applicants for this year are going to help to determine what the award looks like in the future. So visual arts, I would definitely say have a look at the Spain-Greece award. But there are going to be a lot of them that you can search for. And as I say, with over with 450 awards being listed, there are going to be a lot of hidden gems. As I said, we didn't have time today to cover absolutely everything. There's no way we could pull it all off in a single webinar. How about engineering for the Migrant Research Award? That would be, you're going to have to make a case for that one. I don't quite understand how you would, but it doesn't mean you can't. It just means I'm not quite sure how you would apply engineering to that particular award. But if you can make a case for it, I would, because it would be seen as innovative, unique, etc., and that would probably give you a higher profile. Can you apply to multiple awards if they interest you? No. You can apply to only one award. And so always keep that in mind, because sometimes people will try to apply to more than one award, whether accidentally or on purpose, but they're always caught at some point, and then you have to make a choice. Which one do you really want? Do you have some tips for obtaining letters of invitation? We have a whole special thing on a bunch of webinars about that, and so I'm reluctant to answer that today, Catherine, just because I've got a whole bunch of questions. You can always you can go to our website. We do have instructions on letters of invitation, and this comes up frequently in webinars, and so I would suggest that you have a look at the webinar archive. I'm sorry to put you off, and maybe we can talk about it in a moment, but we've got lots of tips. I'm interested in the Global Award. How do I find which countries are participating in these awards? It's very interesting. You can check under Global Award in our award catalog, and it will show you every single country. Most specifically, Israel, the West Bank, Germany, and Mexico. You can also go and look up each of those countries as the awards, and you will find typically it's the last award listed because it's not country specific, but if they're participating, you can find them that way. And the vast majority of the countries in the world are participating in the Global Award. So as I say, you can go and look at Global Award and find everybody who's participating, or you can go and look at each of the countries you're interested in and look at the awards for those countries, and Global will show up as a separate award typically the last one on the list. General question, if a program requires you to have a PhD to be eligible, can you apply if you anticipate to have your PhD before the Fulbright would start, or do you have to have it in hand? You'll notice there is a rule about that online, and we did it specifically because of when I got my PhD. I defended in the summer, but it was too late to get the thing in the fall, and so I wasn't actually given the piece of paper until January. And so we essentially have, if you are going to get your degree in time in terms of after you have applied, but before the award begins, you can apply. Just have a look at the general rule, but yes, we do make allowances for that. I have 5 kids. I know, I'm crazy. Can they come with me on Fulbright? Look at the country benefits. In most countries, it's up to 2 full-time. That means 80% at least of the grant time dependents that you can get extra transportation for and extra housing, extra support for housing and food, so on and so forth. But it stops at 2 additional. If you have 5 kids, especially if you also have a spouse, then you've got a fairly large group, and Fulbright will give you some extra money, but they're not going to be able to do it for up to 5 people. Let's see. Okay, let me see. Oh, never mind, got it. Okay. Are there hidden gems for undergrads? No. The undergraduate program starts when you are going to be a graduating senior, and that's the Fulbright student program. That's not the scholar program. So you need to look at the student program. You need to go to your, you can go to the website for IIE and look at Fulbright student programs. You can also talk to somebody on your campus. Which country in the Middle East is less competitive? Well, certainly not Israel. Israel is very competitive. I'm not sure. You really ought to be contacting the people who work the North Africa Middle East program. As I say, they didn't send in any award suggestions. Jordan has a superb program. But once again, the issue is not so much which country, but which award. So be sure that you are specific as to which award. Sorry. Olivia's taking her best children and she's leaving the rest behind. I think that's brilliant, Olivia. But remember to look for the award that you think will be, the most interest to you, and that's what you really want to try to crack down on. Is it's not the country so much as it's the award. And some countries look for bidding frequently, but it may be that there's one award that's extremely competitive, 2 awards that get 2 applications apiece, and 3 awards that don't get any. So the competitive level is not the country, it's the award. Where can we find a list of contact emails for programs or countries? You will find them with the program description. So that's where you'll find them. As you look at each award, you will find under the country country description, you're going to find the people who work with that particular country, and you'll find their email addresses and telephone numbers. And so we have now gone over time. I appreciate very much, for professors turned administrators, is higher education administration for those of us who've taught and earned terminal degrees outside of education a viable seminar topic, or would I need to be teaching in my degree field? Once again, it's the case that you're going to make, Jennifer. You need to think about how you would apply those skills, where you feel you have the strongest profile, and what fits the award best. Because particular administrator programs, the IEA programs, are looking for certain kinds of issues, and they're looking for you typically as an administrator. But lots of administrators apply in their areas of academic, particular focus, but also say, and because I've been an administrator, I can also do some other stuff. So it's going to depend upon how you present yourself and what it is you want to do with your skills, etc. Well, thank you, Layla. I appreciate the compliment. It's been wild as always. Well, you're very welcome, Jennifer. There are so many opportunities. I love this program. It just does so many phenomenal things for people. It allows you to dream dreams. It allows you to think big. It allows you to do all kinds of things that maybe you never thought about doing. And so I hope you will think about doing them through Fulbright. And well, thank you, Carla. And you can get in touch with me. Please remember, my name is not Arises. It's ARIESS at IIE.org. This will be archived within the next 2 days. At least I pray it will be. You can always send me, you're welcome, Kimberly. Benjamin, you're most welcome as well. You can always send me an email at ariess@iie.org, and I will be glad to send you this presentation, or you can just wait and download it from our website, because that's the easy part, is the webinar. It's the sound part that's always a problem, because our fantastic guru has to go through and take out all of my stupid mistakes and things like guns going off and cattle herds running through the building. You just never quite know what's going to go on during a webinar. But once again, thank you all so much. You will find, of course, a schedule of upcoming webinars. I know there's a lot we didn't get a chance to talk about today. We never do. Judith, you're most welcome as well. And so I welcome you anytime. You don't have to listen to me every time, and that's a great blessing, I can assure you. We have lots of skilled staff who do webinars. So keep in touch, and I will do the best I can to help you out, as will the rest of our staff. Thank you all so much. Have a phenomenal day, and think about all those beautiful gems that we've talked about already. Bye-bye.